Broadcasting from the Mountain Home Services Studio, this is 97.5 KZNS FM Colvin, 1280 KZNS AM Salt Lake City, and 102.7 KSL FM HD2 Salt Lake City Midvale. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Number
20 years and still going strong. Utah's #1 sports radio show for over 2 decades. You're listening to DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined by Ben Bagley, supervising sports producer for BYU TV. Ben, good morning.
Good morning, DJ. Good morning, PK. It's been a long time. I miss you guys, kind of.
I was going to say good to have you back on The Zone, but not if you have that attitude. You have that attitude. Forget about it. I am curious.
I heard PK wishing he could go out to that game on Thursday. I thought with it being in New Jersey, going back to the homeland, there would be no doubt he'd be going.
Exactly. That's why I brought it up.
Love to be there, man. College basketball, the NCAA tournament. If I listed all the stuff that I've done, and I've done a lot of things over the years, that's as fun as anything. The Final Four was awesome.
Whoa. Final Four versus Rose Bowl. Discuss.
I had done Rose Bowls before I came to Salt Lake, but I've only done the Final Four once, and it was incredible. So I'd have to go Final Four.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
PK, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little hurt that your best thing that you ever did wasn't sharing a hotel room with me down in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl.
And, that is literally the only time I've ever shared a hotel room. And I have to say, Ben, I think you got there before I did because I was coming from back east. I had to attend a funeral of my mentor in New Jersey, speaking of New Jersey. So I got there, and you were quite the roommate, man. You had everything in order. You were as clean as can be, and I think you went the extra mile to try to make me comfortable.
Yeah, 2 grown men in a hotel room. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful time. I mean, we really bonded and had a great time there.
The thing that really irritated me, Ben, is if I remember the next morning, you had a direct flight to Salt Lake. I had to go through Houston and Oakland to get to Salt Lake.
I'd forgotten about that, but that is correct.
What is
Hey, back in the day when the powers to be were very budget conscious, like they're not anymore, right?
Yeah, I guess it would money into our situation because I would really, really love, and I talked to DJ about this. Sure, it's in Jersey. It'd be fun to go what I call the motherland. Spent the first 14 years of my life there, and my family, I've got a deep history there. But even if it was in Timbuktu, I would love to be there. I wish I could go.
Yeah, no doubt.
What is the reaction among the Cougar faithful that you have seen, talked to, texted with, communicated with? Is it as over the top and over the moon as we expected?
Yeah, I think it's just elation. I mean, I'll be honest. I did the pre-half and post-game show on Saturday, and there's been a couple of times that I've done that on the BYU radio network and driving home after big games, whether it's football or whatever. And there's been students out in the intersections and rushing swig and all that stuff down here, and it's been crazy. I half expected it to happen on Saturday. It did not. A little shocked on that. But, this fan base has embraced this team. And, I think football kind of started the momentum here with the year that football had under Kalani Sitake. And then things got rolling finally about mid-season with this basketball team, and this BYU fan base is just enjoying riches of wealth right now and really enjoying it. And feedback we get from fans. I was in Dallas last week for the Big 12 Football Pro Day, and we had fans coming up to us there. They didn't really care about, what's going on inside the building with the workouts. Hey, what's going on with the basketball team? Like the questions were just being pinged off us down there about the basketball team from the BYU faithful that ran into us down there. So there is this excitement about this team, and now that they've gone to the Sweet 16, which is rarefied air for BYU basketball, the excitement is very palatable at the moment.
It's really, to me, shocking, Ben. You and I covered conference tournaments way back when in Vegas. So you and I have done a lot of things together over the years, and you've been around for a long time, as have I and DJ for that matter. And you just think back to this time last year, this literal time last year, the first Monday after the Sweet 16 field had been set. BYU basketball was still in a mourning position because they should have beaten Duquesne. They had a nice season, and then they tripped over themselves in the first round, and they're one and done, and you're wondering what's going to happen. Who's going to leave the program because the transfer portal is crazy and all that stuff. And then a couple of weeks later, the dominoes start falling, and I get word, hey, Pope is going to be a legitimate candidate for Kentucky. We know what happens. He takes the job. And here we are a year later, I should say, and Kevin Young is riding in on this white horse, and he's getting players that BYU not only wouldn't get, but wouldn't even consider wasting a penny of resources on trying to get. This has been, of all the things in BYU sports, of all the things in the state of Utah in my 3 decades, this is not just getting to the Sweet 16. I'm talking about BYU basketball where it stands right now. It's one of the more, if not the most improbable story of my time.
I think it's a beautiful story just from the simple fact of there was a decision made at levels probably Tom Homo and above that we are going to take this opportunity at hiring a basketball coach, and we're going to change the mindset we have about this. If this is going to be a business, that we can see our return on investment if this works well, and let's find out if it did, because nobody expected Kevin Young to be hired. That was not something that was on anybody's radar. And then all of a sudden, wait, we're getting this one of the top assistants in the NBA, and we've talked him into coming to BYU. What? And then all of a sudden he comes in with this mentality is no. And this is the beautiful part about it. This is what I've loved in watching Kevin Young over the last year and his growth as a college basketball coach. He hasn't grown as a college basketball coach. He's continued to grow as a coach. And he's brought a pro mentality, and he doesn't look at the game in that box of the college basketball mentality. I mean, even until the last 3 weeks of the season, I'd go talk to him or one of the assistants outside of Chris Burgess, who's so steeped in the college basketball game, and they're like, "Explain to me again what a quad one win is, and what does that mean?" Like they hadn't really kind of bought into all this. Hey, we got to worry about quads, we got to worry about net rankings, we got to worry about this. No, they were worried about getting the job done, and you see that the way that they've changed this mentality. I love watching in games Kevin Young making adjustments. Like BYU starts out slow and there's a struggle, there'll be a timeout called or coming out of the halftime, and you're seeing the adjustments that Kevin Young and his staff have made. Even the point, I saw an article about it, and I loved it was pointed out over the weekend. One of the final possessions, the clock gets down to 8-9 seconds in the possession. Kevin Young didn't like what he said, calls a timeout, draws up a play for his best player, gets a shot, and you get a bucket. That's an NBA-type mentality that you don't see that often in college basketball, and that NBA mentality has really kind of taken over and really helped this BYU basketball team grow. But even in that NBA mentality, he's going anti-NBA because he's running 11 players deep, not with an 8-man rotation, especially this deep in the season. I think Kansas game was Trey Stewart coming in and kind of being a spark. Ever since that game, Trey Stewart's averaging about 12 minutes a game, and they're really valuable minutes. Mihailo doesn't play in the first game in the NCAA tournament. You play against a team where they're taller and longer, and we're going to play more perimeter. Also, Mihail's playing 7, 8, 9 minutes in a game in the second round. So Kevin Young is being able to change the way this team looks on a game-to-game, possession-by-possession basis, something you're not used to seeing necessarily in college basketball.
BYU is not only having success, they are selling it. It's like some kind of force multiplier. They're trying to extend the reach as far as possible, which I think is brilliant. People have used the free media to get elected president. So I don't get why sports teams, college and pro, are running from it. But they are. But nonetheless, that's choices they make. But BYU is not making that choice. So, Ben, I'm going to give you this thought. You know I'm idea guy, right? I'm going to give you this. I want you to run with this on campus. You're going to be the hero. Thursday.
Is this for free? What's this going to cost me, DJ?
Nothing.
Okay,
Thursday.
Let's go.
Thursday. Yeah, your reputation. PK's right. It's going to cost you your reputation. It'll cost you your rep. Thursday, the Marriott Center needs to open at 4. They need to spend the next 3 days getting the word out. Come to the watch party at the Marriott Center. They need the place packed. They need as much of the game management stuff they do, which they do really well. They need as much of that as possible, and they need BYU TV to shoot it and provide a feed to CBS. They might as well tell the whole country this place is crazy about basketball. And you know how BYU fans are. If you give them a free party, they are going to show up. I have zero doubt the arena would be packed. It'd look great. Recruiting is mostly about money, but you still need to open eyeballs awareness and get people talking about you and get on people's radar. There are people who aren't thinking about it. You want them to find you as much as you have to go find them. So throw it open and let people know this place is crazy about hoops and crazy about this team. And they got BYU TV to provide the signal to CBS and put it on the air and cut away because they love that stuff.
Yeah, no, that would be, David Almodovar online too. Let's go. Let's get that done.
There you go. Done. My work here is finished. Carry on.
You, Ben, like I have traveled with BYU over the years, and what am I looking for? It doesn't necessarily it doesn't amaze me. It doesn't amaze you. But it's funny when you go into these arenas and they're starting to go in, a second year in the Big 12, so they're going to get used to it. But the BYU fans, and whether they're church members who live in Waco or wherever, they come out and they support BYU. We've seen it. I've seen it over the years. I've been with them on I've been with them at volleyball, no less. And obviously, I've been with them in basketball and football, and it's always funny to see the reaction of the number of BYU fans from the opposing team. And I'm sure that's something you've experienced. They really do have a ton of support, and it catches opposing, which would then be the home team's fans, off guard.
Yeah, my favorite is how often you hear, man, this team travels great. How does BYU travel so good? And I'll be honest, they do. There is a group of BYU fans who just don't miss games, period, home or away. They travel. That's awesome. But the fan base, it's a national brand. We've had this conversation with ESPN a couple of times since I've been down here. It's like, hey, BYU is a national brand. How can we kind of capitalize? There's a reason BYU had a deal with ESPN. It's the fact that they're a national brand, and ESPN can recognize that and work with that. But still, to this day, like Lawrence, Kansas, why are people traveling to Lawrence, Kansas to watch BYU? No, there's a Midwest BYU fan base. That's the closest they're going to get to see a game. So they will travel from the states surrounding, and they will pay, and they will go into the game. And it's the one or 2 games they get to see a year, and they are going to go all out in those games. And I think even during independence, I think Tom Holmoe did a great job of, hey, let's schedule a game in a pro stadium, or let's schedule a game back on the East Coast, because that gives a chance for that East Coast fan base to see a game. Hey, let's go schedule a game in Arizona. Let's get that Phoenix Mesa fan base an opportunity. Hey, let's go to Southern California or Northern California. Strategically putting these games around the country that kind of keeps that thirst for BYU sports up. And these fans show out, and they are loud, and they are just enjoying the moment, and now they're seeing that moment turn into success, and they're enjoying it that much more. And every time we go to these schools around the conference and talking to their administrations and other people, are just like, man, you guys just travel well. You guys, your fan base is crazy. It's awesome. It's a great addition to the Big 12.
Well, I hope that will lead to more high-profile non-conference games, because now that you have straightened out the coaching staff on Quad 1, minus Burgess, on Quad 1 and Quad 2 games, why were the Cougars seeded 6th this year? Well, 1 or 2 of those seed lines have to be that non-conference schedule. They just have to be. It wasn't good. Maybe it was 2 or 3.
The coaching staff realizes that, and they were kind of saddled with that because after last year, Mark Pope wanted to dumb down the schedule a little bit, and they walked in with that schedule almost already put together, didn't have an opportunity to kind of beef it up, and didn't know that they need to beef it up. But I think next year, And frankly, even if they didn't want to, I think next year with the addition of AJ DeBonta and all the high-profile games that ESPN is going to kind of facilitate for AJ. And this BYU team, you're going to see a lot more quad 1, quad 2 games in the preseason before you get to the conference.
Given what basketball is doing and what football has done, is this the best of times?
I think you can make an argument for it. I mean, just to be able to have both at the same. I mean, if you want to go clear back to 81, 82, 83, there was some where both teams were really good at the same time. But I mean, many of the people listening weren't alive at that point. I mean, a couple of us were, like the three of us were. But I mean, I think that this in modern history, if you want to say modern past 1985 or since the national championship, this is maybe the best of times for BYU fans. You've got two teams that were top 15, top 20 type teams. They're going to go into the next seasons. If you want to push clear ahead, both teams will be nationally ranked going into the regular seasons next year. Both coaches are bells of the ball in their professions, and a lot of people talking about them. BYU basketball is going to have a spotlight that they've never, ever had on them like they will next year. It'd be interesting to see how the university capitalizes on that and moving forward with that. Yeah, this is just maybe the foundation of the best of times, because I think that they've got something going on down here that's going to kind of carry the momentum is going to carry it ways.
You just got to take a deep breath right now after all that. Holy cow. It's hard to believe when you're in the middle of the good old days that you're in the middle of the good old days. But when you started talking about 1980, whatever, I looked up and looked at our producer, Christian, in there, and Chicho was just rolling his eyes like, yeah, I wasn't born. I don't know what you people are talking about.
Well, let's think back. I mean, I heard you guys talking earlier this morning about the rivalry. When Utah got football going, they kept making fun and pointing at BYU. Oh, 1984, like it was some big thing. But that's the depth of this. It's been we did specials last year for BYU TV about the 40-year anniversary of that. I mean, guys, it's been a while to have this level of national success at BYU. So fans are enjoying it, and justifiably so.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing that I'm upset about is that I have never been on BYU Sports Nation, and I don't understand why.
Hey, PK, I know a guy who might be able to arrange that. I mean, if that is one of the wishes that you have, I mean, I can walk out of my office and talk to the producer and say, hey, we need to get Patrick Kinahan on the show. Well, how do we make that happen?
I know some BYU fans think I don't like him, but the coaches don't think that. The administration doesn't think that. God doesn't think that.
Whoa.
That escalated quickly.
Well, God, of course, being now Kevin Young.
It's like this is like the reunion tour the last 2 days. I was talking to my guy Scotty G yesterday. Now I'm on with you guys, and I know Scotty's enhanced. They've both been on BYU Sports Nation, so
I know that's why. I mean, what is it? You have an East Coast bias against me, man. That's what it is.
I do have an East Coast bias, although I will say there's been a couple of times where I've been down around the conference. And I go down to Arizona State, and I always take a moment of silence at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, just for my guy PK. I was like, this is sacred ground right here. This is one of the
only the finest.
Where one of the pillars of Utah media got his starts.
Exactly, trained at the foot thereof.
I take a knee, bow my head, and just take a moment. I'm like, okay, this is my idol started here. This is the place.
The two most important figures in Arizona State history, Walter Cronkite and Cam Scattaboo.
Oh.
Cam Scattaboo.
Well, I haven't been on BYU TV Sports Nation. I know exactly why, and I don't expect ever to be on, so I understand. Don't worry about me. I'm low maintenance.
Oh, you're a Ute?
Worse.
Wait, I thought that was PK.
You're Jewish? You're like Jake Retzlaff? What is it?
All right, Ben, good times. We've got other former producers texting, wondering why they can't be on the show, and you get to be. So,
well, I was shocked. I was shocked yesterday. I get the text from Christian. I'm like, wait, they scraping the bottom of the barrel here, man. I think I'm listening to Steve Cleveland this morning. I'm like, yeah, Coach Cleve. I'm with Coach Cleve here, man. This is great. They love me. They really, really love me.
Yes,
thank you, Sally.
Always have, for that matter. Always have.
All right, Ben, we'll let you go. You have important things to do. You said you referenced you were on the road, and we could hear you zipping up the suitcase, so I assume you got a plane to catch. You're the man.
No, I'm actually I'm back in town. In town Friday. Back in town Friday. Did pregame on Saturday, and now we're getting ready for the week.
And what a week it'll be when you get the Marriott Center opened on Thursday. I'll wait to hear
there
that
we
good
go.
news.
I got a phone. I got 2 phone calls to make. One to get that to happen, and the other one to get PK on Sports Nation.
Okay. All right. We'll talk to you again, Ben. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Ben
Bye.
Bagley, supervising sports producer for BYU TV. Join us here on The Zone. DJ and PK, everything you missed in this show. When we come back, stay with us.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
The general manager of the Utah Hockey Club, Bill Armstrong. So down the stretch, it seems like every game has a playoff-like feel to it. Is that something that this team has embraced coming down the stretch here?
There's a lot of pressure that sits on top of our players. It's a must-win every game. But I like that. It's all about playing meaningful games down the stretch because we want to experience that pressure on our back where it's a must-win every single night and we have to be at our best no matter who's coming in. We've got to find a way to win. I've really liked how our guys have responded. We've been down a few goals and fought back to get points, and that's what you have to do at this time of the year. And there's a lot of hockey left. We got to keep pace with everybody else and keep winning and finding ways to get points. We got some big games coming up against some teams that are right in the race too, and we can take care of a lot of our problems by just beating those teams.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. For all of you, less motivated listeners, it's time for your 9 o'clock. Where the heck have you been headlines?
Where you at?
With DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Call Trajan Wilt today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Trajan Wealth, bringing you the slacker headlines, all the stuff you missed in today's show. Donovan Mitchell came back through town. Okay, it's been 3 years now. Is everybody over that? He barely played. 16 points, 21 minutes. The game was over 4 or 5 minutes into the third period. The halftime lead was 5. It went to 20. There will be no upsets here. We will now have a lot of garbage time, and then it ended.
Game was over when the schedule came out in August.
The schedule hasn't come out, but next year's games might be over too, right?
Well, let's just see, who they get.
See if there's some big game hunting in the summer.
Well, let's see if they get the number 1 pick, man. I mean, I get that Cody Williams has had an awful rookie season, and I'm not going to judge him by it and say, oh, that was a bust of a draft pick, but
you knew
expectations were low, and he got below them.
Yes, that's true. You knew he was super skinny when he was drafted.
Yeah, but at Cooper Flagg, I'm not expecting him to be LeBron his first year, but I am expecting him to have an impact on his team, recognizing that Wembanyama didn't change the scope of the team. I think they actually lost more with Wembanyama as a rookie than they won the year before. But nevertheless, if they should get the number 1 pick, certainly we're expecting Cooper Flagg to show better than what Hendricks showed last year, and obviously he's been unable to show anything this year with the injury. And Cody Williams hasn't shown much as top 10 picks, both of them. If they got Flagg, I'm expecting him to show a lot more, and that doesn't mean that they would be able to compete and beat Cleveland next year, but let's see what happens with the draft and with some other stuff. Because if they end up getting the number 1 pick, maybe they try to expedite it a little quicker, figuring, okay, Flag can come in and do his thing and be really solid for us. So, I don't know. Well, they have to get it, but I wouldn't necessarily think next year is a guaranteed lock that it's a repeat of this season, although if people want to say it will be, I certainly can see why.
We talked about the Utah Hockey Club, 6-4 winners over the Tampa Bay Lightning. The problem is it's going to be hard to catch the Blues. They're 6 points up. Hockey Club does have 2 games in hand, so that would help close that margin if they won both those games. St. Louis has won 6 in a row, which is what it takes when you're in a 4-team race. You figure somebody's going to get hot. It turns out it's been St. Louis. Still got a ways to go, but they're running out of runway here. So
it doesn't matter, though, because the mission of this season, if it was exclusive of the playoff and you don't get it, then it's been a disappointment. But if you take a step back and look at the gains that have been made in many, many ways, and also on the ice, you can't discount that I think they can spin this season as, hey, we took a pretty big step forward. Now next year, we've got guys who will be older, blah, blah, blah. They'll make some changes. We've established ourselves in the community. You can see a lot of positives can be had. So I'm not really caught up in the playoff. It would be fun to have playoff hockey, as it's fun to have playoff whatever. Fill in the blank. It's always fun. And with that in mind, though, I think you can see that they have made the strides necessary to put themselves in position for down the line. And certainly the playoff is going to come. If it doesn't come this year, we would expect next year. And once the good thing is about when they get in the playoff, then it can be a run of postseasons.
On average, they've been improving about 10 points a year. It does look like they'll do that again, so you can kind of do a 4-year graph. And some years it's a little more, some years it's a little less. But the rebuild, they bottomed out at 57 points. 3 years later, they ought to be up in the 80s somewhere. So stands to reason next year could be 90s in playoffs.
Right, and they won't be selling
progress.
They won't be selling off assets.
Right, yeah. Progress. They've made progress with the core returning, and most of the team at an age where you expect either they're better or they're the same.
Right.
And the other thing we talked about is Logan Cooley scored his 20th goal, so there's 250,000 reasons for him to be happy. Way to hit the bonus.
Oh, I know. That Lamborghini he went and bought on Saturday. Man, sweet.
Just making stuff up. And we spent a lot of time talking about the NCAA tournament. There were several good games and good storylines. Former BYU coach Mark Pope has Kentucky in the Sweet 16 after beating Illinois. They've got a showdown with Tennessee, SEC rematch. The Mountain West is out. New Mexico and Colorado State played well, competitive games. New Mexico competitive, CSU got beat by a buzzer beater, and Maryland wins 72-71. Derek Queen is now a Terrapin legend for his game winner. And all the number 1 seeds win, and BYU is in the Sweet 16 for the first time in 14 years. The plan has come together as well as it could in the first year. Back in the summer, if you'd said, year 1, Sweet 16, every Cougar fan signs off on it. If they get more, great. If they don't, it's been a great year, which I know is a dangerous attitude to carry around, but I think if you're a fan, it's probably the attitude you're walking around with. Players can't afford to have that, but...
Well, especially since you got the number 1 recruit coming in next year.
Yeah, right.
The argument can be made strongly that we're just getting started here. And Kevin Young, oh my gosh, man, he's the hottest young coach in the history of hottest young coaches. Jeez, when you look at him and all that he's been able to accomplish, guys are flocking to come to BYU, and the transfer portal opens today. And I know that sounds like I'm kind of having fun with it, but step back, there's some realism there. They're going to pay the money. That's a fact. Spoke to someone, maybe not getting the playing time, and, well, why you stay? The money. This was literally said to me over the weekend. Fact. And if I told you, you would say, oh, yeah, I will trust that source 1,000%. Believe me, it's true. So they're going to pay, And with that in mind, if you look at what Kevin Young, he can put you in the position to succeed, son. You'll be with a winning team. You'll be with a sold-out arena. You'll be with the number one recruit. You want attention. They're going to get attention overflow next year. The second this season ends, there'll be like a 10-minute cooling off period, metaphorically, and then, wow, begin for next year. And then we'll see. We already know Big Shot is coming. His teammate down there is coming, Zave, the 7-footer. And if Keita comes back, that rim may be something that will be protected in a manner that we haven't seen. And then we'll find out over the next several weeks if they get some other players. And we'll also find out who leaves, because I don't think everyone's going to come back. My guess is normally, I saw something, I forget where it was. Somebody said, Cooper Flagg had made overtures about wanting to return. And somebody said, no way. They can say that all they want. There's too much at stake. If you don't want to go to whatever team, it doesn't matter, son. You literally can't afford to risk a major injury next year. And then plus you don't know who's going to be drafting in the same spots next year, a year from now anyway. So he'll be gone. So if I had to guess, this is 100% guess without any conversation, that Agor does leave.
I've assumed that all along. If for no other reason, you got to start the clock so you get your second contract and the really big money sooner.
That's true. There's no doubt about it, but he is so young, and it was told to me in October that he would consider.
And I've heard that. I didn't hear it until January, and I was talking to somebody who's in basketball, but they're not in the BYU world, but they'd heard that because they do talk to people in the BYU world. And they had 100%. They just went right down the line. It was like I was sitting next to you. That same conversation has been repeated multiple times.
Yeah, my information comes right out of literally the coach's office.
Yeah. Anything else you want to tell the people here as we recap the morning?
Oh, man, this is a great time to be alive. Count your blessings, and I don't mean that in any way that isn't the utmost sincerity. I saw on the news last night that the woman politician, Mia Love, 49 years old, is deceased because of brain cancer. What a tragedy for her and her family, obviously. So it really, man, life, the precious nature of it, and to be able to enjoy it and don't take it for granted. A friend of mine that I went to Hawaii with, his boss, perfect condition as I understand. Turns out it wasn't, and he has a heart attack at 64 out of the blue and is gone. Man, you just literally never know.
No. DJ PK, on that happy note, we'll take a break, and when we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
You love your dog. You can't imagine life without him. So it's time to vote for Fido and the rest of his kind.
What up, dog?
It's the Man's Best Friend Bracket Challenge, where you can vote for the best dogs on the planet. Vote now at KSLSports.com. But take your time. We know these decisions can be rough. Really? Rough? Who wrote this?
You better watch yourself, big dog.
It's the Man's Best Friend Bracket Challenge. Going on at KSLSports.com. Powered by IFA. Stop by one of their stores today or visit them online at IFA.coop. IFA, helping to grow the things you love. And now, enough of us. It's time to hear from you. From all your texts, tweets, and posts. This is the best feedback of the day.
Ooh, I was there. It's the best game of my life.
With DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Question of the morning. BYU is in the Sweet 16. Who would have thunk it? 11-2 and highly ranked at True Blue BYU 1984. As a BYU homer, not me. He didn't see it coming. Loving it, but didn't see it coming. Blindsided. I think the blindsiding depends on when do you answer this question. I think a lot of people thought this in the summer. Look at all this talent. They're going to be a Sweet 16 team. Look at all this talent. Nobody was thinking it in December and January, whether it was 2-4 in league or 6-6 in league. But you had to think, after you watched them win game one, that they had a decent chance. Even if you didn't think they should be favored, you had to think they had a decent chance against Wisconsin. I mean, the spread was 1 point. It had to occur to somebody they might win this game.
When the bracket came out, I thought they had a shot, yes. But for much of the season, at least half, no, when you count non-conference. I mean, they got smoked at Providence. That was an awful game. I watched the entire game. They looked awful back then. And so you're thinking, oh, okay, and these guys just aren't ready. And for the first part of the league, at least the first month, you're thinking, okay, these guys just aren't ready. But they got it together. Good for them. You got my attention when you won at Iowa State, when you won at Iowa State, I should say. I might have said Ohio, but I meant Iowa. And then obviously Arizona and the way you destroyed Kansas. Kansas wasn't a good team relative to Kansas standards, but you beat them by 30. So you factor all those things in. And then once the bracket came out, I thought, okay, yeah, this is conceivable. They can win these 2 games, and that's as far as I took it. And I feel the same way about Alabama as I did about Wisconsin. And I said on Friday, if they hit their shots, they can win. And I think the same thing going into this game, too.
It's there for the taking.
I think it is, yeah.
Can you hit the shots? There's some early quotes out from the Alabama's coach, and Deseret News has a story up on him. And basically he says what we've been talking about. He's happy that they're playing a team that will run the way BYU does, and that'll match them in tempo. They just played St. Mary's, which obviously we know St. Mary's will slow it down, grind it out, and they got through it. And they got through it pretty comfortably, but he'd rather play this game. This will be strength against strength, and who can match up with all the shooters the other team's going to have out there, because these teams both throw up 80 and 90.
Yeah, when you play St. Mary's, it's always going to be a close game.
Yeah. Well, they limit possessions, keep the score low.
Yeah. And this one has an opportunity either way to be a little bit of a blowout.
Yeah. One other thing we should mention before we go, coaching search. I mean, it's one story, but I did read about the West Virginia coaching search, and obviously written by somebody on the other side of the country that you and I have never met, but that Calhoun is the second choice. Drake's coach is the first choice. So we'll see how that works out. Jobs are getting filled. Even as we speak, the carousel moves on. So
yeah, and then it went into the middle of April before there was a coaching change, and it only takes one opening, and that was a significant one when Calipari leaves Kentucky.
Right. But that's the dominoes going.
Having the domino affecting BYU, obviously, for the better. Nothing against Mark Pope. And I don't root against Mark Pope. I have nothing against him, and he's where they need to be. But BYU's in a better spot.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're all done. Jake and Ben are up next.